Hello and welcome to the Ems Handoff podcast. We're live at the Temsea Conference, the Tennessee EMS Education Association annual conference in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, at the Embassy Suites. We're coming to you live, which has been something that we've had some fun with, learned a lot, and just all kinds of great and fun stuff. So we're going to welcome back our co-hosts, Eric McCullough and Bradley Dean. So Bradley, day two, still having some fun out here.
Bradley? Yeah,
Bradley.
Which one? Which one's Bradley? We don't know. We look so
yeah, lots of fun, lots of good people. So last night I got to hang out a little bit with some people from Columbia State.
Yeah.
What a crowd.
What a crowd.
Yeah, Greg Johnson and the crew. Yep.
So
that was fun.
I can't say I went and hung out. I went straight to bed.
Yeah, we should have.
Work, all kinds of stuff.
What happens when you get old?
I know. Since you're older than I am, well, we won't say much about that. We will go to the actual Eric this time.
All right.
And he went out partying last night.
Oh yeah, a little too late. Feel terrible this morning. Been running around because I'm a board member here, so I've been running around doing all the some of the technology stuff. And yeah, I'm glad to get at least a few minutes to come over here and hang out.
All right, so it's a short topic here, but it's one that we've been having to deal with over the last 16, 18 months. It's been a topic of conversation for many years. What is the best way? So, Bradley?
So I guess the question is online versus classroom education, because we've been forced to make that shift. But now that we're making that shift, is it really benefiting the profession? Is it causing some issues? Because there's a difference between training and education. I think we're getting education out, but are we getting the training piece?
So, one of the big things that we can't do is the hands-on component per se, but so let's take that from the knowledge aspect first and how we are actually providing that education. So,
well, maybe one of the first things we need to do is make the distinction between what is education and what is training. And I'm not going to go into deep detail about definitions, but let's just talk about this. So imagine, let's talk about the difference. Imagine, if you would, you've got a 13-year-old daughter. Okay.
Not hard for you to imagine.
Not hard for you to imagine. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
So she comes home with two pieces of paper. Okay. And you've got to sign one of these because she's either going to go to sex education or sex training. Which one are you going to sign? All right.
Oh, man.
So that's the difference between education and training.
That's a very, very good example.
And I think we've got to press this for an answer because I don't have to worry about the 13-year-old. My daughter is already, she's turning 18. So we're past that point. So which one are you signing, Bradley?
I'm signing education.
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to do education here. We don't want training.
So, online component is nothing new. It's been around for a while. And I think we need to further define that as we get into this as to what is that online. And so are you talking right now about dealing with a video of somebody or an audio recording of somebody just talking and presenting and going, or are you talking about face-to-face? What are we talking about by that online component right now?
Yeah, so we have to have a happy medium of both education and training. So we'll focus on the educational online piece of this for a minute. I have seen, and I've been guilty with refresher courses or initial courses that we're trying to transition and push online. People go in, they upload the PowerPoint, they leave it for the student to look at, and that's all they get. So is that the right thing for us to do? Or should we do some voiceover? Should we do some additional things, make our own? Should we have 2 or 3 people doing a conversation about a particular topic, or should we be live with a student?
Well, here's the thing about what I've come to know over the past year. I think everybody's so tired of the online education stuff, like in the sense of like doing stuff. I mean, it's nice to be self-paced and stuff, but there's also a bit of weariness to it because we've been forced and we've been doing it for a year, and I've seen it not only in college but also in elementary school, like with my own kids. They're getting some interaction with their teachers, but it's still not the same, doing it virtually as it is doing it live.
Well, And I think one of the biggest things is everything that I have seen is basically an either or. You either you're in person, you're in seats like we're sitting here right now having this conversation, or you're face to face with a computer screen. And so I think this is where we need to get creative, because I think there is a place for in-person education, and I'm an advocate for. And throughout COVID, I have been, let's get back to the classroom and that engagement. But there is a component in which we can place a video in a file for that they need to go view, and then there's a place where we can go face to face via Zoom technology. And really, to me, I think you limit when you say we're going to touch the face to face only, or we're doing a live Zoom only, or we're doing videos only. I think there's always a component that is missed. And as we go forward in plan, I think the part that comes out of this is how do we make our programs robust enough to say it's not just face to face, it's not just Zoom, it's all component and making it better.
So it's almost like the flipped classroom design, where you're hybridizing it. You get them to do some of the homework in class, but you do the presentation stuff maybe online, and then you come into class and you have that face-to-face interaction where you get to work out the problems with somebody or an instructor, whatever.
Well, the flipped classroom is certainly one of those, and definitely there's a significant internal locus that a student has to have to, do that study, do that review at the house. But even, flipped classroom, if you're not prepared for that, it's may not be done as efficiently as it could be. But each one of those components has a place. And I think that we've had engagement, because I think all of us have probably taken an online class that has been exceptionally well done, and then we've had some that are probably exceptionally not. And it's a really a combination.
The only thing about the online classes, though, is that like everybody seems to be offering them now. It's become one of those. It's become kind of muddled into those models of like, oh yeah, here, buy this class for $10 and get this certification, all this stuff. And so it's fed in social media. Now we're putting it into our formal education. We're doing it in our curricular activity education. And I'm afraid all of it kind of gets muddled in. That's the only problem I have with the online class. Now, I don't have an issue with online classes. I think online classes could be a really good deal. And just because you don't like something doesn't mean you didn't learn something from it, as students probably learn. At least I learned that from the military. Learned all sorts of stuff I didn't like.
Right. Well, let me, so our kids throughout this have kind of gone through a massive change as well. In the education side, when they first let out for COVID, and they went to these paper packets, and then they finally come back to an online setting with a new school year, and then they were in and they were out. There's ins and outs, and the thing I found interesting was even the kids were like, I would rather be in the classroom, but there's times I'd like to come online. There's times that these papers would be good. And so I think we boil down and say, let's build EMS 101, and we're not making this an EMT or AEMT or paramedic class. It could be a continuing education.
Yeah.
It could be, anything. And so, hey, we're going to have you in the classroom for 8 hours, whatever that 8 hours is. And it could be like Bradley was saying, that's the training component. What is that specific? And hey, leading up to that, you've got X amount of lectures that you have to do. There's X amount of, book type material you have to do, and then we come in, but there's guided lectures, there's videos to watch or audios to present, because just like this setting here, there's some good podcasts out there, and we can utilize it and say, hey, go to the EMS Handoff episode 21 from minute 15 to minute 20, and that's your assignment tonight, because they talk in the background. We've got a couple of episodes we watching our previous one with Tyler Christofoli, may be a very specific topic that we're talking about. It's like, hey, bring that's part of your lesson. This is part of your lesson. And then we come in with an online component face to face via Zoom, and we're talking about this and engaging, and then we come in the classroom, and then I'm to the point now that I don't think it's a one component should make up a class. We're utilizing all of our resources. Bradley?
Yeah, I think it gives you the opportunity. So if you're going to a classroom, you're only interacting with those individuals that you see every day. So there's a social component to that. But at the same time, there's an online social component where you may get a wider group of students from a variety of backgrounds online that you could interact with, whether it's through posts or live interaction through Zoom or WebEx or something else.
And we've seen that on our Facebook group, like when they do the comments and stuff.
About 5 minutes.
We only have 5 minutes left.
This is a short episode. We're coming back. So hey, that's one of the things with live. You never know who's going to come by and say, hey, I need to see you in just a few minutes. But
yeah, the Facebook comments, I mean, we've seen that where people are interacting and stuff on that. And I've gotten a lot of engagement, through that component. And yeah, and I think people might interact in ways they may not like, but they may be able to voice something that they wouldn't have voiced in class because people get social anxiety or something else, or maybe they're thinking about something and they're able to, articulate it out in a way they wouldn't do it in class.
And I think one of the things that we do have to look at when we do this is, the idea with all of this is engagement. Everything you want to do, you want to make sure that the individual that you're trying to reach is trying to educate is actually engaged in learning. And I know there's a lot of superfluous rules, and so hey, you've got to have your video on so that I can see you. We got to, you got to write X number of comments. We got a quiz, whatever. The whole idea of education is we empower and impassion our teachers or educators to embed that passion into the students. And then you get that engagement. So a lot of people, when they say online, well, you lose that engagement if you don't have them on video or if you don't have them commenting or whatever. But, it should be a natural for me to stop and go, okay, now guys that are online, I need you to go in and type these two things in comments to make sure,
absolutely.
There's no natural fluidity. Right.
Yeah.
And they're saying, oh God, I got to do this again.
Yeah.
So
Like, what was those words? Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it from, hey, embed in the middle of a PowerPoint a number. So at the very end, they have to type in that number as one of their quiz. So, they were in the middle of that hour-long presentation, or it could come up randomly, so they don't just try to scan to the 30-minute mark or whatever. We should be utilizing these things too. So if it is 5 minutes of our Christofoli episode, I don't need to go, hey, you need to go watch this episode. You take the time to say, hey, pull up from 31:42 to 38:41. That's 5 minutes. I need you there, and then you're going to find some really great information. And it's a little bit with you, but it's designing that. At least that's my thought.
Yeah. No, and then it expands out because they may get so interested in the topic that they decide to go even further into it. So maybe engage them in a way that gives them curiosity.
Yeah, so it can be engaging. Like I said, I've been guilty of before. You upload that PowerPoint, and that's all you leave in there. But engaging the students and making the topic and content relevant allows them to kind of develop at their own pace versus being in a classroom and depending on the pace of the learning of the other students and the instructor.
Well, and I'm just going to use this conference as one example. So in 2009, I finished my undergrad from the University of Memphis. And I actually had a professor there that it was an online program. Okay. And in that online program, there were some that basically said, here's your reading materials, read chapter 1, take this quiz. And at the end of the semester, you're going to write a 20-page paper. And I have others like Chief Heath. And I'm going to go ahead and call him out on here that even to this day, the first conference after I got done, he actually reached out to me and chased me down the hallway to introduce. And, we've had that, but it was enough that we actually had that interaction, and he recognized me and he reached out to communicate. And I learned so much from that class, and that's that engagement. It was an online class. And if he would have done like all the other professors, he could have just tossed up some stuff. But even now we have a good relationship and talk regularly. So I think that's a key thing. So
Absolutely. All right. So I don't know. I think I think there's so much more to that topic too, especially as we're finding out the results of what all this education is going to look like downstream 2 or 3 years from now. We have COVID learners who are hitting hospitals who didn't get the clinical time, who didn't get the in-classroom time, who completely rearranged the way that they think about things, their process, their workflow, who are now having to readjust back. In fact, I had somebody I was talking to who's like, yeah, I did my first 2 semesters of nursing school at home. Now I'm having to reorganize because now they have us back in class next semester. So, just that switch, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of results we get from it.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. So.
All right. So as we wrap up this episode, we're going to be coming back this afternoon for another live venture of the EMS Handoff at Temsea. We want to make sure and give a shout out to our podcast partner, the Journal of Emergency Medical Services. Make sure to go by their website at gems.com and see everything that they're doing for the profession. And also, if you haven't seen our great shirts here lately, big hit at the conference, our Keep Back podcast line, go to the Pursuit Company's website. They are the official merchandise partner of the EMS Handoff. You can find them at thepursuitco.com and find all of our EMS Handoff gear there. So for my co-host, Bradley Dean and Eric McCullough, or actually do this the right way where we have Bradley Dean and Eric McCullough. Sometimes, live, it's just, that's how it is. Take care, stay safe, and always remember the value of your EMS Handoff.